Hi again. We have our fabulous bullfighting horse, Otello, back, and Ruth Hogan-Polson back to now demonstrate another one of our advanced lateral exercises. And this one is haunches in. The first one we showed was shoulder in. Now we're going to show haunches in. And I just want to review for you that formula that's so important with the advanced lateral exercises. The formula being that when you bend a horse, plus you go sideways, you create engagement or bending of the joints of the hind legs. And that's why it's so important that we don't start these advanced lateral exercises until we know that the horse can bend. Now, it's interesting, a lot of times people are a little leery of doing haunches in because they ride their horses, and particularly in the canter they'll see this. They'll be cantering along and the horse will be putting the hindquarters to the inside. So some riders get very nervous about specifically asking the horse to put the haunches to the inside because they know in some of the gaits, most often in the canter, the horse already wants to put his haunches to the inside. But getting back to our formula, the main difference between a horse that's just putting his hindquarters to the inside, in other words, drifting the hindquarters to the inside so that he's a crooked horse, and the horse that is deliberately in a haunches in position is that key word again, bend. Because when you bend the horse and place the horse on, you'll see it once again on 3 tracks, we get engagement of the hind leg. If the horse's body is straight and he's just crooked, then he's opening the joints of the hind legs. So that's why haunches in is a very okay exercise to do, because we have that bend through the body of the horse. It is not a crooked horse, and that's an important differentiation for you to make. Now, think about how we started shoulder in. We said the horse needs to be able to bend from nose to tail along the arc of a 10-meter circle. And in the shoulder in, we take that first step of a 10-meter circle and we interrupt that and continue that bend along a straight line. That's shoulder in. Well, haunches in is very, very closely related to shoulder in, because once again, we have our 10-meter circle, and haunches in is the last step of the 10-meter circle continued on a straight line. So there's really only one stride between a shoulder in and a haunches in, and that's that stride where the horse would be tangent to the track in bend. So you can see how closely related these exercises are. They all start with the 10-meter circle, and then shoulder in is the first step of the 10-meter circle, and haunches in is the last step of a 10-meter circle. And just like in the shoulder in, the angle that we bring the haunches in off the track is 30 degrees so that it puts the horse on 3 tracks. So if I were tracking to the right, meaning my right leg is toward the center of the arena, and I were putting the haunches into the right, my left front leg would make a track all by itself, and the right front leg, left hind leg make its own track, that's the second track, and the inside hind makes a third track. So at a 30-degree angle of the hindquarters off the rail, the horse is on 3 tracks. Just like in shoulder in, if you over push the haunches in and you ask for too great of an angle, it's difficult for the horse to bend, and he ends up doing a leg yield in a haunches in position. Now that's totally fine if you want to do a leg yield, but if your goal is to engage the horse and collect the horse so that you shift the center of gravity toward the hind legs and you load those hind legs, then you need to do it with a bend. And I'll give you a little warning here, unless you have mirrors or a ground person, it's very common and it's very deceiving as far as how much you're asking the hindquarters to come in. People have a tendency to over push the hindquarters in. So better to err on the side of doing a little bit less than doing too much. So we're going to start this exercise the same way that we did the shoulder in. We're going to do a 10-meter circle, go over the bending aids, and then I'm going to have Ruth halt on the last step of the 10-meter circle. And when you think back to shoulder in, what I told you to look at were the hindquarters of the horse. In other words, if something had blocked my view and I couldn't see anything from here forward, and all I could see were the hindquarters, when she was in shoulder in, I would not have enough information just looking at the hindquarters to know if Otello was just going straight down the track or if he were in shoulder in. Well, it's the same thing for haunches in. We're going to pretend that we can't see anything from here back, that all we can see is the forehand of the horse. And if we just look at this part of the horse when he's in haunches in, we would not have enough information to know, is he in haunches in or is he just going straight down the track? And the way that you do that is you ask yourself two questions. The first question is the horse's forehead perpendicular to the rail? Because a lot of times when horses don't bend very well around the rider's inside leg, the rider tends to bend the neck too much to the inside, and then the forehead is not perpendicular to the rail. That's the first question. Your second question is to look at the shoulders or the front feet, the toes of the horse. And right now, I don't have anything for you, I'm very sorry. Right now the toes are pointed straight ahead. When he's bending correctly around her inner leg, the second question you ask yourself is, are the front feet absolutely parallel to the wall, just like they would be if he was just going straight down the track? So once again, the two questions are, is the forehead perpendicular to the wall? Are the front feet parallel? If the horse is, thank you, that's a good demonstration, let him stand just like that. If the horse is evading the bending around the inside leg, you can see right now that his toes have shifted out to the left. They wouldn't be parallel to the track anymore, and that would just be a leg yield in haunches in position. So I think let's go to the right so that you can halt on the last step facing the camera. Or if you want to do it to the left, you can do it on this long side. But I'd like you to halt on the last step of a circle so that we can evaluate the forehand in terms of those two questions. And first, do a complete circle so that you have time. Make sure the circle touches the rail. You have time to go over the bending aids. The weight is on the inside seat bone. The inner leg is on the girth. That's good position of your outer leg. A little vibrating inside rein brings the horse's nose a little bit to the inside, but we know that horses are more flexible in the neck than they are through the rest of the body, so we need to support with the outside rein. So we're going to halt on the last step of the circle. Good. All right, so the two questions we ask ourselves are, is his forehead perpendicular to the rail? And it is. The second question is, are his front feet parallel to the rail? I would say they're 95% parallel. Okay, so they're a little bit shifted out to the left, but that's pretty good. And you can see that the horse is on three tracks. The outside hind and inside foreleg are on the same track. Now, if Ruth wanted to continue, that's all right, you can just let him do whatever he wants here. If she wanted to interrupt that circle and continue down the long side in the haunches in, rather than continue along the arc of the circle, she would tell him, once again with her eyes, where she looks down the long side, she closes her outside hand in a fist, and she presses a little bit with her outside leg. So come in haunches in now, just for a few steps. Good, good, good. And then turn, and then just walk the haunches in away from us. It's going to be harder for you to see the head and neck going away, but what I want you to see is three tracks. And every corner should be ridden as if it's a quarter of a 10-meter circle, no more angle than that. That's perfect. Good. Oh, good. Good. Whoops. Have to take a little potty break here. That's okay. We're having a little potty break. Now I would circle there, Ruth, because I want people to understand to always get bend first, then add in the angle. And since his body came straight when he had his little potty break there, I want to renew the bend, then keep this bend, and at this moment close your outer hand in a fist and use your outer leg. That's perfect. Perfect. Yep. No more angle than that. Good. And straighten him and trot and do the same thing. So she's going to ride the corner, I believe, as if it's a quarter. Yeah, quarter of a 10-meter circle. Good. And what we look at is his forehead perpendicular to the rail? Are his front feet parallel to the rail? That's super. Good. Can you do that the other way? That was just lovely. If you need to do a circle somewhere, that's fine. Remember the equation, bend plus sideways. Bend always comes first. Then we add in the sideways at the finish of the circle by closing the outer hand in a fist and using the outside leg. Good. And the two questions that you ask yourself is the forehead perpendicular to the rail? Just a hair more angle there, Ruth, just a hair. Yep, right there. And are the front feet parallel? Good. One more long side, then he gets a break. So she bends him in the corner, and is the forehead perpendicular to the wall and the front feet parallel? Super, super, super. Yeah, on 3 tracks. Very good. Walk and pet him. Super. Okay, so let's talk now. You can bring him up here. Let's talk now about some of the common mistakes that people make. I think I already mentioned one of them. Because horses generally have a stiff side and a hollow side, a side that's more difficult to bend, sometimes clever riders try to finesse bend by bending the neck of the horse rather than getting the bend around the leg. Okay, and therefore, if we go back to our 2 questions, is the forehead perpendicular to the rail and the front feet parallel to the rail? You'll see that the forehead is not perpendicular to the rail. So just walk down the center line and turn either left or right, and you can do this in the walk, where you're going to overbend the neck to the inside so we can see that the forehead is not parallel to the rail, perpendicular rather, to the rail. So yeah, a little too much. There you go. That's what I see a lot of, that the rider uses too much inside rein, and you can see that the horse's forehead is not perpendicular to the rail. It's too far to the inside. That was very good. That was very bad, very good. Okay, stop for a second while I explain the other common mistake. And I think I also already mentioned this mistake. The mistake is that our perception of how far we're asking the haunches to come in is more difficult than our perception of how much we're bringing the shoulder in, because we can see the shoulders. They're in front of us, but we can't really see what's behind us. We have to learn to feel. And so often riders ask for too much angle with the outside leg, and they over push the haunches to the inside. And once again, at an angle much greater than 30 degrees, the horse really can't bend through his side. So I'd just like you in the walk to walk away from us and basically ask for like a 45-degree angle so we can see too much angle, and it'll be a little bit difficult for you guys to see in this direction, so we'll have her do it coming toward us. But you can see that the front toes are pointed out to the left. There you go. That's what I want to see. Yeah, so like a leg yield. Yeah. A leg yield with a little inside flexion. There you go. That's what I want to see. That's wrong, by the way. She's demonstrating too much angle, and you can see that his front feet are pointed out to the left. They're not parallel to the rail. Turn there, Ruth, and do it on the next long side. Exactly what you just did. So look at his front feet. Remember, that's one of our two questions. Are the front feet parallel to the wall? And you can see that they're very much at an angle to the wall because she has his body at a 45-degree angle. He can't bend at an angle that great, so he shifts his front feet so that his shoulders and his front feet are to the left. Very good. All right, so the exercise that I want Ruth to do now is very similar to the exercise we did in shoulder in, because like I said before, so many of us have to work on our own, and it's a way for you to tell if you have honest bend, because remember, in the haunches in, if all we could see is this much of the horse, it should look identical to the position that it would look like if she were just going straight down the long side. So what she's going to do just in the walk is alternate straight for 3 or 4 strides, haunches in for 3 or 4 strides, straight for 3 or 4 strides, haunches in for 3 or 4 strides. And this way she learns the feeling of keeping the forehand exactly in the same position. She'll know when she asks for haunches in, if the forehand changes position, she has to adjust her aids a little bit so that the forehand stays exactly in the same position, whether she's just going straight down the long side or she's in haunches in. So start straight so you have a frame of reference. Feel the parallelness of his shoulders and his front feet. Good. And the perpendicularness, if that's a word, of his forehead. And now haunches in. Good. Keep a little hair more angle, just a hair there. And straight. And haunches in. Keep the forehand on the line. Good. Keep it, his front legs up. There you go. And straight. Try it once in the trot. Start straight. Good. And haunches in, keep the forehand in the same place. Yeah, she had to make a correction because he was going to shift his shoulders out. And straight, and haunches in. Better. And walk. Very good. Okay, now I'm going to give you a little bonus here. That's what I wanted to tell you about haunches in, but the bonus is an introduction to what we'll be doing in one of the future lessons, which will be a lesson on half pass. And the reason that I just want to introduce it now, just briefly, is oftentimes when I do clinics, people will say to me, I do shoulder in with my horse and I do haunches in with my horse, but I haven't started half pass. And that really doesn't make very much sense to me because all of it starts with the circle, that 10-meter circle. So if your horse can do a 10-meter circle, he can do shoulder in. It's the first step of that 10-meter circle continued on a straight line. If he can do a 10-meter circle, he can do haunches in, which we just demonstrated. It's the last step of a 10-meter circle continued on a straight line. And if he can do haunches in, he can certainly do half pass, because all half pass is haunches in, like you just saw demonstrated, but on a diagonal line rather than on a long side. So if you were to pretend that the diagonal, in this case from K up to M or from H to F, was a solid wall, and then you ask for haunches in along that diagonal line, once again, asking yourself the same 2 questions. Is the forehead perpendicular to the line, and are the front feet parallel to the line? And when you ride your horse in haunches in on a diagonal line, you have half pass. Can you just do that once in each direction in the walk? So from K, you can either go to the center line and then go straight, or you can go to M. Because Otella's done a lot of lateral work for us today. We don't normally do all this lateral work, but we did give him a little break in between and let him do some work straight forward. So haunches in on a diagonal line is our half pass. Little bit more bend there. Yep, there you go. Little more bend there. Bring the haunches. There. There. Bring the haunches just a hair more. Yep, there you go. Haunches in on the diagonal line. Good. Good, there we go. And then from H, the same thing. So she will place his front legs on the diagonal line. Come straight for about 4 strides so people can see the straightness, if you can hear me okay. Just come straight. Good, as if you're just changing the rein across the diagonal. Now add in the haunches in. Perfect. Perfect, and there's your half pass. Perfect. So his forehead should be perpendicular to the diagonal line and his front feet parallel. Beautiful. Beautiful. Super. And it's a good thing to do, just like we did on the long side, to alternate between straight, haunches in, straight, haunches in. Good. Perfect. Checking to see that the forehand is exactly in the same position, whether you're just going straight as if you're changing the rein across the diagonal. Why don't you bring Otello around here? Or whether you're asking the haunches to come in. Just turn them around. Well, we have just a quick review. So this is our second advanced lateral exercise, haunches in, with a little bonus footage on what's to come next, our half pass. And remember, it's a collecting exercise. It follows our equation. Bend plus sideways equals engagement. You want the bend as if the horse is along the arc of a 10-meter circle. The angle is 30 degrees. Which hindquarters are 30 degrees off the track, which puts the horse on what we call 3 tracks. And the 2 most important questions to ask yourself, if you have to work by yourself, is my horse's forehead perpendicular to the wall, and are his front feet parallel to the wall? And then you're doing quality haunches in. So our next lesson will be on half pass, and you've already had a little introduction to that in this lesson, so I hope you're excited about seeing what comes up next. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.